Yeah, home is Atlanta, Georgia. Been here since 1965. Moved from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and moved actually to Fort Lauderdale, Florida from Lake Placid, New York, where I was born. And in Fort Lauderdale at that time, swimming, baseball were the primary sports down there. There wasn't much basketball or football going on in the early 60s. And played a lot of baseball and got into swimming. My dad was a swimmer, so it was kind of natural for all of us to get into swimming, and just continued it when I moved to Atlanta in the mid 60s. You know, when I think about someone that was the most influence on my life, I've got to come up with probably three people. The first one I would say is Eddie Reese. I was lucky enough in the mid 70s to go down and coach with Eddie Reese at Auburn, Alabama for 2 years when he was trying to build that program. He's kind of a world-renowned coach now. He's coached at Texas for 30 plus years, Olympic coach and all that stuff. And I would consider him a mentor. I think our styles are very similar. I think my style was similar to his at the time that he was there. Second person I think would be a guy named Jeff Goforth, which is a guy that we brought in to do mental training courses with our swimmers. And he completely changed my thought process on how I looked at things, which I think really impacted me as a coach. And hopefully impacted the swimmers because I tried to change their thought process also. And the third would probably be Jim Fraser, who is my partner that started Swim Atlanta with me. I think when you work with somebody for 37 years, they're going to have a lot of influence on you, and Jim certainly did. I started coaching probably when I was 16 years old at the summer league level. And I can't remember since I was 16 a summer or a year that I wasn't coaching, even though I was doing a lot of other different things like the construction, property management, the real estate. Even when I was at school at Auburn, I was coaching the collegiate team. I was coaching the age group team at night. So it seemed like it was inevitable that I was going to end up coaching because that was probably the common denominator for everything that I had going on in my life. Yeah, the sport in swimming from when I started swimming, which was in the old casino pool in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, that was a combination of salt water and chlorine with no goggles, to the technical kind of sport that it is today, where they've got the goggles, they've got the caps, they've got the technical suits, they've got the timing system, they've got the better pools, they've got the indoor facilities. It's a much more user-friendly sport, I think, today than it was back in those days. Yeah, I became a coach for swimming. Like I said earlier, I've always felt like that swimming or coaching was always a common denominator for me in my life. I was always with the kids, and really the kids. If I'm at a party and there's a bunch of kids on one side and there's a bunch of adults on the other side, I'm over there with the kids. And it seems like I have a good rapport with them. They talk my language, I talk their language, and I really enjoy them. So really, it's not a job, it's a hobby. Yeah, my coaching philosophy has always been that it needs to be fun. Now, that's not to say that it isn't fun to work hard, because it is. That's not to say it's not fun to do the best set you ever did in your entire life in practice. That's not to say it's not fun that now I can do 10 pull-ups and I only could do 5 before. I tell the kids and I tell myself that when it ceases to be fun, I'm going to quit, and they ought to quit, because I think the sport's too hard. Anybody can pound and ground the kids. Right. That's the easy part. The art of coaching is tapering and knowing each individual and knowing what each individual needs in terms of their taper. And the hard part of that is because they're adolescents, each season the taper changes because they physically change. So maybe what worked one season is not going to work the next season. So you have to have some kind of an intuitive feel for how hard they've trained, where they are mentally, physically, and what you think, I guess you call on all your experience to try to get the best you can get out of them that season. It's funny you ask about how long I've managed to stay in coaching this long. I'm getting more and more on these days, the question is when you're going to retire. I tell my coaches when I mentor them, and I firmly believe this, that if you're going to stay with anything in terms of longevity, you cannot allow your highs to be too high or your lows to be too low. And the other thing that I think is extremely important is that you cannot allow your self-image and self-esteem be tied to a swim. It's so important that you know who you are and what you're trying to do with the kids, and you don't allow one swim to determine who you are as a coach or a person. And I see a lot of coaches that do that. So for me, it's still fun. I have a great time being with the kids. My favorite part of the day, and my days are normally 10 to 12 hours, most of it tied up with the business, but my favorite part of the day is still being on the deck with the kids. So I think as long as I'm still having fun doing that and being with the kids, they may have to wheel me off of there.